4 years, UFC controversies have come and gone. Fighters argue. Fans take sides. Social media explodes for a few days, and then everyone moves on to the next big story. But every once in a while, something happens that feels bigger than a simple disagreement between athletes. Something happens that pulls politics, personal beliefs, national identity, and the future of the sport into one massive collision course. And right now, that's exactly what's happening as the UFC prepares for one of the most talked about events in its history. What was supposed to be a celebration of the sport has suddenly transformed into a battlefield of opinions. The upcoming UFC event at the White House was already generating enormous attention because of its historical significance. Fans were talking about the magnitude of the occasion. Fighters were discussing the opportunity to compete on one of the biggest stages imaginable. The UFC was preparing for a moment unlike anything it had ever attempted before. But now, instead of focusing entirely on the fights, headlines are being dominated by controversy, accusations, social media wars, and a public feud that nobody expected to escalate this quickly. At the center of this storm are two of the most outspoken personalities in mixed martial arts. On one side stands Justin Gaethje, the current interim lightweight champion, a fighter known for his willingness to engage in absolute wars inside the cage. On the other side stands Strickland, a man who has built an entire reputation around saying exactly what he thinks regardless of the consequences. Neither fighter is known for backing down. Neither fighter is known for staying silent. And when two personalities like that collide in today's social media environment, the result is usually explosive. The fascinating part is that this entire situation didn't begin with a championship fight. It didn't begin with a contract dispute. It didn't even begin with something that happened inside the Octagon. Instead, it started with a simple exchange online. A fan expressed an opinion about the White House event. A response followed. Then another response. Before long, one comment turned into a chain reaction that drew in some of the biggest names associated with the UFC and created one of the most heated debates the sport has seen all year. What makes this story even more interesting is that it highlights a challenge the UFC has never fully escaped. Mixed martial arts has always attracted fighters with strong personalities and strong opinions. Fans love authenticity. They love hearing athletes speak their minds. But when personal opinions begin intersecting with political issues, national controversies, and major public events, the conversation can quickly become much bigger than the fights themselves. Suddenly, people who don't normally follow MMA start paying attention. Suddenly, every statement becomes a headline. For the UFC, this couldn't be happening at a more sensitive moment. The White House event is already being viewed as a historic milestone. Some fans see it as proof of how far the organization has come. Others view it through a completely different lens. Regardless of where people stand, one thing is undeniable: everybody is talking about it. And in today's world, attention is often the most valuable currency of all. Yet while the headlines focus on controversy, there's another reality that shouldn't be ignored. Some of the biggest fights of the year are approaching. Championships are on the line. Careers could change forever. Legacies are being built. And somehow, all of those storylines are now competing for attention with a social media feud that continues to grow larger by the day. The situation began gaining traction when Justin Gaethje started responding directly to fans discussing his participation in the White House event. As one of the most recognizable American fighters on the card, Gaethje naturally became a focal point for criticism from people who opposed the event. Some fans questioned his involvement. Others criticized the UFC itself. What might have remained a simple exchange quickly escalated when Gaethje decided not to ignore the comments. Known for his straightforward personality, Gaethje fired back. The responses were blunt, aggressive, and exactly the type of exchanges that thrive on social media platforms. Soon, screenshots began circulating everywhere. Fans debated whether Gaethje was justified in defending himself or whether he was unnecessarily escalating the situation. But regardless of which side people supported, the controversy was now impossible to ignore. Then Strickland entered the conversation. Anyone familiar with UFC history understands why that instantly changed everything. Strickland has never been the type of fighter to watch from the sidelines. Whether fans agree with him or not, he has built a reputation for inserting himself into discussions and making his opinions impossible to overlook. The moment he responded, The story transformed from a dispute between a fighter and a fan into a direct conflict between two high-profile UFC stars. The exchange quickly evolved into a war of words. Accusations were thrown back and forth. Personal attacks entered the discussion. National identity became part of the argument. Both fighters appeared completely unwilling to back down. Every new statement generated thousands of reactions. Every response fueled another round of debates across social media. As if that weren't enough, reports then emerged suggesting that Strickland would not be attending the White House event. The news immediately created another wave of speculation. Was it true? Was it punishment? Was it simply a misunderstanding? Fans rushed to social media searching for answers, while MMA media outlets scrambled to gather more information. Strickland eventually addressed the situation himself. In typical Sean Strickland fashion, he did so through a video that mixed sarcasm, criticism, and commentary in a way only he could deliver. Rather than quietly accepting the reports, he used the opportunity to make his thoughts known publicly. The result was exactly what many expected: even more controversy. Whether people agreed with his comments or strongly opposed them, one fact became impossible to deny. Strickland had successfully redirected attention back toward himself. The discussion expanded beyond his attendance at the event and into broader conversations about freedom of speech, athlete expression, political involvement in sports, and the role public figures play in shaping public opinion. Meanwhile, Justin Gaethje appeared determined to keep his focus on competition. Unlike Strickland, whose public image often revolves around controversy and unpredictability, Gaethje has generally preferred letting his performances inside the cage do most of the talking. Yet even he found himself pulled into the center of a conversation that seemed to grow larger every day. Lost beneath all the drama is the reality that Gaethje is preparing for one of the most important fights of his career. His showdown against Ilia Topuria carries enormous implications for the lightweight division. It's the kind of fight that could shape the future of the UFC for years to come. Yet instead of discussing techniques, strategies, and title implications, many fans are focused on social media screenshots and political debates. That brings us to another fascinating storyline surrounding this event: Ilia Topuria's future. While controversy dominates headlines, Topuria continues positioning himself for even greater opportunities. The undefeated superstar has repeatedly expressed confidence in his ability to defeat Gaethje and continue building his legacy. More importantly, he has openly discussed the possibility of moving up another weight class and challenging Islam Makhachev. It's a scenario that excites almost every MMA fan on the planet. A fight between Topuria and Makhachev would represent one of the biggest matchups the UFC could possibly make. Two elite champions. Two dominant forces. Two athletes who believe they are the best fighter in the world. The anticipation surrounding that potential showdown continues growing with every passing month. Topuria himself appears eager for the challenge. He understands the risks. He understands the criticism. Yet he also understands what opportunities like this mean for a fighter's legacy. Great fighters don't become legends by avoiding challenges. They become legends by pursuing them. At the same time, another name has quietly entered the conversation: Usman Nurmagomedov. As one of the most talented lightweight fighters outside the UFC, Usman has long been viewed as a potential future star within the organization. With discussions surrounding free agency and possible UFC interest, fans are beginning to pay closer attention to everything he says. Recently, Usman generated headlines by discussing Topuria and comparing current UFC hype to the enormous attention surrounding Khabib Nurmagomedov's legendary clash with Conor McGregor. His comments immediately sparked reactions throughout the MMA community. Some agreed, others strongly disagreed. But once again, another layer was added to an already fascinating narrative. And then there is Alex Pereira. While everyone else seems focused on controversy, Pereira is quietly preparing for a potentially historic achievement. If he captures the interim heavyweight title, he could accomplish something that would place him among the most unique champions in UFC history. The possibility of winning championships across multiple divisions continues fueling discussions about where he belongs among the greatest fighters ever. Interestingly, Pereira's move to heavyweight has generated its own wave of debate. Fans have analyzed every photo, every training clip, and every interview. Some expected a dramatically larger version of Pereira. Others questioned whether he had gained enough size for the division. The discussion became so widespread that even Pereira eventually addressed it himself. According to the Brazilian superstar, the move feels natural. This isn't a rushed decision. This isn't an experiment. This is a carefully calculated step that has been developing for quite some time. He believes the timing is right, the opportunity is right, and the moment is right. If he's correct, the White House event could become remembered not only for controversy, but also for history. And perhaps that's the most remarkable thing about everything happening right now. Beneath the arguments, the social media battles, the political debates, and the headlines, there remains an incredible collection of fights waiting to happen. There are championships on the line. There are legacies being shaped. There are opportunities that could change careers forever. When the cage door closes, none of the online arguments will matter. The tweets won't matter. The interviews won't matter. The controversies won't matter. Only the fights will matter. And if UFC history has taught us anything, it's that the moments people remember most are rarely the arguments before the event. They are the unforgettable moments that happen inside the octagon itself. If you enjoyed this video and want more UFC news, fight analysis, breaking stories, and the latest developments from the world of mixed martial arts, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and let me know in the comments which story you want covered next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.